Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of Vikings. We're talking the series finale, the entire second half of Season 6, or Season 6B, if you want to call it that.
We watched all 10 episodes today, and it was awesome. This is my favorite show.
Let's do a quick recap here of the day, because I think I started watching at about 8 a.m. today Pacific time.
Yeah.
I finished maybe like 20 minutes ago. It was around 6:30 or so-ish. So basically, I watched 10 episodes of this show in 10 and a half hours.
Yes, that is exactly what happened over here.
It's a lot. I feel like I just want to start like chanting various things now or just yelling all the time.
It's just crazy to get all the episodes at once. I mean, the way that this played out, very odd. I mean, we're all used to watching it each week on History. Not happening this time.
I'll be honest, I don't really like all of the episodes at once. Like, well, we're going to talk about a lot of the big stuff over the season, but I would much rather have them once a week so we can come on here and be like, oh, let's talk about this thing with Bjorn. Let's talk about this other thing with Gunhild. And it's like, now we have to cram it all into one video.
Yeah, there was so much that happened in these 10 episodes that watching them all in one day, as much as I love the show, it is a lot because there is so much that is happening.
We're going to try to get through all of this. Spoilers. Spoilers. Do I need to say it again?
Oh, so many spoilers, guys.
Yeah. I mean, granted, I guess some of it's history, but you know what? Whatever. There's spoilers.
Yeah, some of it is history.
Some of it. Well, anyway, if you guys enjoy this discussion and deep dive on all things Viking, subscribe to the channel because we have a very busy 2021 coming up.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of shows. Bachelor's premiering, This Is Us is coming back, Blacklist, Snowfall, more, and the Power Book 2 finale this weekend.
Oh yeah, we'll have that up on Saturday night right after it's aired, so make sure you subscribe.
Okay, can we just start with the biggest of big pictures here? You are the biggest Vikings fan I know. You are probably the biggest Vikings fan to ever exist. So
I love this show so much. Overall, this was a great last half of the season. There were some parts that dragged. I'm not going to pretend like, episodes sort of 7 and 8 kind of started to drag a little bit. And at that point, I was kind of like, is there enough content here for 10 episodes? And the answer is yes. I still enjoyed all of it.
I'll start by saying this. I think this is one of the better series finales that I've seen. I'm not gonna go so far as to say it was the best series finale I've ever seen because that's a very, very high bar, but it was really good.
The thing about this show is that things typically don't turn out the way you want them to. I mean, we sort of ended this show with Ingrid on the throne, who I think a lot of us are kind of like, meh, she's all right. She's not exactly who, after watching so many people like kill each other over this throne, of who I think we thought would end up there. And then, of course, Ivar is dead, Harold is dead. A lot of people are not sort of getting what they want out of this. But it was nice to have an ending where Ubbe did get what he wanted. He actually got to sort of this golden promised land that his father had wanted to get to. Floki is there. I think we all kind of felt that he was going to make another appearance because we never saw his body. No body, no death, guys. So as far as like final scenes, having Floki and Ubbe sitting on the beach, sort of taking it all in, where it's like, yeah, man, we made it. And that was really great. Floki saying, oh, Ragnar's still talking to me every night. He's like, build me a boat, build me a boat. I was just like, are we going to see Travis Fimmel? There was a minute there that I was expecting Ragnar to walk down that beach and sit beside Floki, where Ubbe wouldn't be able to see him, but Floki would. Just 1 minute, I was like, oh my God, it's happening. You guys are going to make me cry.
We wouldn't be doing this video right now if that happened because I would still be trying to resuscitate you after you just fell over on the ground.
Yeah, no, I mean, they did a great job without him showing up. I mean, I didn't really expect that he was going to show up, but there was a part of me for a second there where I was like, oh man, they're kind of leading me in this direction.
I'm about to wade into some dangerous waters here because what Game of Thrones tried to do, I think, in a lot of its final season was show that, this is a bittersweet world. Terrible things happen. You don't always get what you want. But I think where Game of Thrones stumbled a little bit was in the execution of getting from point A to point B and justifying the moves and the actions of certain characters. And I think why the Viking series finale works better in that regard is, you look at someone like Ivar, who's gone through everything that Ivar has sort of had over the years. Like, his death, well, just a gut punch and devastating. I mean, it's an awful person in a lot of ways who's done a lot of horrible things, and yet they have put you in a place where you see him dying, and you still, there's a part of you that's like, do I really feel bad that Ivar's dying now?
Yeah, Ivar has done some terrible things, but he is a character that has... there is other sides to him. He's gone through a lot in his life. There is reasons he is as angry as he is. He's trying to find himself in a world where being the way he is not accepted. It is not, he's felt he's sort of the butt of everybody's jokes. Nobody takes him seriously. He's become very angry with this. This whole storyline with him and Prince Oleg, it was really a great story because I liked seeing him with Igor this whole time where their relationship was sort of building and building and building, and you could see that both of these young men were getting something out of this. And watching him leave and, his brother turned to him and was kind of like, you've changed. No, I haven't. Maybe I have. I was just like, no, you have. We all see it. And I like that they did that with this character because Ivar could have easily turned into a character where it's just like, oh, there's Ivar just being crazy again and not having any sort of character development. And they did not do that. And I'm so thankful for it.
You know what it really is? It's sort of like you're a crazy party person, for example, and you go to a party and you see somebody else who's acting like a crazy party person and is like, putting the lampshade on their head and is like drinking like 8 cans in a row, and then you realize, oh, maybe I shouldn't be like that all the time. And I think that's Ivar after he goes and spends some time with Prince Oleg, who's not a good person. I think we can all say that pretty emphatically.
No, he's not a good person. And then we had his wife, Katya, I'm going to say her name wrong, who to me was a really fascinating character. She reminded me a lot of Juliet on Lost because the whole time she was on this show, I just didn't know where she really aligned. I didn't know if she was really with her husband. She really wanted to actually help Ivar. I couldn't figure it out. And even down to the last minute when she was taking Igor out of the house, I was still like, I don't know where she's really landing. And I love characters like that. So to see that she's the person who's going to end up having Ivar's baby and that he is going to actually have an heir sort of go on, that was really cool.
The legacy of Ivar, I think, plays out in like a couple of really interesting ways. That's not one of them where, you've got this kid out there and, we're sort of left to our own Vikings imagination here as to what happens. And then you have, in the final scene, Hvitserk basically telling Ivar, you will not be forgotten. Your name will be remembered. It was great. That scene was just so good.
That death scene killed me. Like you said, Ivar... not the nicest guy, but he has had lots of redeeming qualities as well. That you do go on this journey with him. So by the time he does end up dying, and he's dying in Hvitserk's arms, and his brother is someone who should hate him till the end of time, and even him is just like, no, I'm going to make sure everyone remembers you. Everyone is going to sort of sing your praises. And that moment when Ivar looked up at him and was so honest and just so raw and was just like, I'm afraid. I just broke. And then his brother's just like, I won't tell anyone. And he didn't. And I love that.
All of that was just, it was so good.
Oh, it was so good.
In between all the prophecies and everything else with these two, that they come together, they have that moment. And this is where I think the most interesting theme of Vikings is. This is really ironic because like the entirety of these 10 episodes are spent either discussing war, engaging in war, dying in war. And I think the show in the end is about peace. I think the show in the end is about how you sort of find a way to reconcile yourself and find the right world for you.
Yeah, and I mean, that was something that, yes, Ragnar loved to go on adventure and stuff like that. But in the end, what he wanted was to find a little piece of land with Lagatha and just kind of farm. And that's what he wanted. And that's why, even though not everybody got what they wanted and most people did not get what they wanted, it was nice to see that Ubbe did get what he wanted. Yeah. And that Ragnar was kind of there in spirit, so he also kind of got what he wanted.
Yeah, that beach scene, favorite series finale beach scene since the end of Chuck. I think it was just well orchestrated, well placed. These characters get what they want. And, if you look across these final 10 episodes, yeah, some people get what they wanted and got peace in kind of brutal ways, but they still got it. I mean, let's look at Gunhild, for example, and what she opted to do.
Yeah, so, we haven't even really talked about that. So there was, Bjorn ended up dying. And I will say that I really wish that they hadn't kind of spoiled that he had to come back to life to come to this battle before these episodes aired, because that whole sequence of events where it was like he basically died the night before, the next morning he's in his armor and he's on the horse and he's going into this sort of battle to bring everyone to battle one last time. It was so powerful and so well done, and that type of a surprise would have been really incredible.
That episode to me was the one I'm the most bummed out about, and not in terms of the quality, but in terms of we're going to drop all of these at once. People who watch the show in history may not even know about it. And because of all of this, though, that gets lost. I'm really afraid there's not going to be enough people talking about Bjorn and how awesome it was with him with the arrows still in him.
It was so good. That was really one of the best death scenes of this whole series, and there's been a lot.
It was so unbelievably epic, and it does sort of set everything else in this final batch of episodes in motion.
Yeah, and it was interesting to have him sort of die in that first episode as well, because Gunhild had this really smart, interesting, deep conversation at his tomb with him where she was kind of like, all the great heroes are gone. Yeah. And it was true. I mean, Ivar's still out there, but is he a hero? Nobody really knows where he lands. I mean, some people think so, some people don't. But, I mean, when you really look at the show, the big heroes that everyone's sort of rooting for, it's Ragnar, it's Lagatha, it's Bjorn. Now Bjorn is gone, and you still had 9 more episodes. At that point, I was just kind of like, how are they going to fill this time? I really don't know where they're going. What is the big end to this? And that's why, they brought in some characters where I was kind of like, Ingrid, I don't really care what happens. Eric is brought in, he's getting stabbed. There was some characters where I was just like, I don't care enough about these characters. I am missing sort of some of those heroes and people to root for.
Would it have been better if, say, episode 6, they're like, okay, well, we know we've killed off a lot of people you like. Here, let's give you 2 episodes of Rollo. Would that have made it a little bit better in that sense?
Maybe a little bit. But so after Bjorn's death, we do have this sort of battle over the throne. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Ingrid? Is it going to be Gunhild? And then Harold comes in, he's like, no, it's going to be me. I'm going to be the king, sort of thing. So it was, difficult as well, because Harold is somebody that, again, people don't really like him. They don't really like him on the show. In his world, he's not as really that respected. It's, he's done some terrible things. He did some terrible things to Ingrid. It's difficult.
This is probably my biggest critique of this final batch, is that I think they kind of yada-yada'd what happened to Harold a little bit. When I hate Harold so much. He's one of my least... I wanted more time to revel in his demise than I think ultimately we got, because we're so focused on, here's what's happened with Ivar, all this terrible, and because all this was at the battlefield, it gets lost a little bit. I wanted more time to celebrate Harold's demise, and I'm a little salty about it.
Yeah, and it's interesting in some ways, because I know that the fandom is kind of divided on him, and he was someone that I for a long time kind of just felt a bit sorry for, because he was sort of this heel that just couldn't find love. Nobody wanted to be with him, nobody respected him. No matter what he did, he just couldn't get it together. But then he did what he did to Ingrid, and the show doesn't really have a lot of assaults or anything like that really happening on the show, and it didn't seem in character for him to do. He's a very jealous guy and very jealous of Bjorn, and of course jealous of his 2 wives, jealous of all of it. But it was really surprising to see him make that move last season, to the point that even King Harold was like, what happened? Why did I do that? Kind of thing, that even he was like, out of character for me.
That's why I am fully putting my Viking hat in the corner of Harold sucks. I do not like him. Maybe if that didn't happen, maybe I would lean a little bit more towards, okay, he slightly sucks, but I'm all in on disliking him, and I don't feel like there was enough payoff there. And
yeah, I agree. I think there wasn't enough payoff. I think I would have, like, him wandering around in the fog and then just getting killed. I feel like I would have liked to have seen something a bit more with him.
Yeah, but I think in general, they've had so many characters. Like, I'm just looking at this final batch and thinking, okay, here's all the, we have people like Eric, who we haven't really talked about. We have all of the Saxons, who are kind of bringing back into the show here at the very, very end, which totally kind of goes a little bit Last Kingdom-y at times.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have watched Last Kingdom or you know the history, this brings us to that last big battle. If you know it, you already knew how it was going to end, that Ivar does not win that battle.
No, and I do appreciate, though, the mythology they brought in. I like some of the sort of weird spirituality. I mean, yeah, they could have made some of the Ingrid witch scenes maybe a tad bit shorter. I kind of got the point after a little while.
I will say that I really liked that they brought in the sea serpent and that story and everything that happened there, and that you saw Torfi's daughter actually peek out the window and see it. I thought that was really well done, because when I saw the trailers and I saw that, I was just like, oh no, what is going on with this? Like, is this gonna kind of actually be a thing that happens? But I like that it was her daughter heard the story, got scared of the story, looked out, saw what was happening, and that it might just be something that was in her head.
The other thing I wish that we had a weekly rollout for is that Floki reveal at the end of episode 19. If we had a full week to sort of just sit on that Floki was back after just being gone pretty much forever and having some weird storyline before that, like, it would have been so great.
It was still great to me. It was nice to see him back.
Yeah, it was.
Like I said, I didn't think that he was dead. No body, no death. I expected him to come back. I really did. And as soon as they sort of started bringing in that, oh, there's a crazy man here, I'm like, oh, it's Floki for sure. And I loved his house up in the trees. I loved sort of the wood carvings he had, even with the church. And I was like, oh, this is for sure him. Like, he is not dealing with that. And then Ragnar with all the snakes. I was like, this is great. That reveal was super good.
Speaking of the church, I think one of the biggest finale moments people will be talking about is Hvitserk ultimately renouncing his faith in the old gods and getting a new name and sort of embarking on this new chapter. And I think it's going to be polarizing in a lot of different ways, because we've come to be so attached to just Vikings and the element of who they are, and here's Hvitserk becoming someone different.
Yeah, and I mean, in a lot of ways, I'm not surprised. Hvitserk is someone who's never had direction. He's always had a very difficult time figuring out who he is, where he kind of fits in, who he fits in with. I mean, he just didn't really ever find his own footing and his own sort of lane to go in. So after all of this happened, I mean, we don't know for sure that Alfred didn't force him into it. I mean, he could have captured him and brought him in and was like, you're doing this. Or more be like, hey, you are like this rudderless boat. Yeah. Come on in. We can help you and we'll set you up with this and that and the other thing. And he was always really a lost soul.
And I think it goes back to that idea of peace. And I think that Hvitserk's peace is having a role and having a purpose. Yep. And, if they give him a purpose in this new world, I think that is more than enough for him. But, the weird thing is, looking ahead, we have another spinoff that is coming.
I know. And we haven't even spoken about Gunhild's death yet. Oh, my goodness. That was so well done as well. When she came down that aisle to marry Harold, I was like, oh my God, she's actually doing this? This doesn't feel right. Something's not right.
Yeah.
There's no way that she would end up doing this. Like, I just can't see it. So when she was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to go be with Bjorn. I was like, this is perfect for her.
Probably the fastest we've seen something go from a wedding to a funeral in TV terms in quite some time. It was really well shot. I think it was really well played out. Really, really emotional. I think the sea in Vikings, it symbolizes adventure. It also symbolizes, this other sort of sacred world that is a part of them and a part of sort of just separating from their own identity. I really liked how they played all of that out. It was like, okay, we're going to hit you with one gun punch. Then we're going to make you wait a few more episodes. Then we're going to gut punch you again. And then there's the series finale. And oh no, Ivor's gone.
Yeah, I know. No, they held nothing back. They really did a good job with this.
They did a great job.
Series finales are really hard. Like, you mentioned Game of Thrones. Yeah, that was a long journey for a series finale that was seriously unsatisfying for me. And that's why we're 20 minutes into the video for anyone who's watching. Vikings is a better show. Okay. And I really like Game of Thrones. But I will say it, for me, Vikings is a better show and with a better ending.
It's such a difficult line to toe, and I think I'm not going to be, Mr. sitting on the fence on this, because I do think that Vikings had a better series finale by far. Like, I think Game of Thrones to me had some really iconic moments and may have had more iconic moments that I sit back at and my jaw hits the floor more, but it also had the advantage of it being fictionalized. When, Vikings is history, that Vikings aren't taking over the entire world here. Like, where this is going.
It's true, which why also for me it makes it a little more real, and it feels a little more real, because like these are real people that went through this. So it's not fictional. There is some history behind it, and you're just like, oh man, this really happened.
And I'm so curious to see where a new show goes, because for some weird reason it's on Netflix, even though this was on History, then it was on Amazon, now we're over here.
Yeah, and it's, to me, the biggest sort of like mystery is, why isn't this spinoff about Rollo? Rollo lived for a really long time in France after, he left the Vikings. And yeah, he may have had a more quiet life, and I mean, like, they can kind of gussy that up for a show. I don't know anyone who doesn't want to watch that. If you don't want to watch that, leave it in the comments if you're still watching.
I would watch a Rollo spinoff.
I would watch a Rollo spinoff. He's just so, like, I don't know. He's just such a smarmy guy, and you never really know. He's so sneaky.
Yeah, like, and I know that they're jumping forward at the spinoff, or whatever you want to call it, and all of that, but I hope they really still honor the memory of a lot of these characters. And yeah, it's going to stink to not get more Rollo, but I hope they do sort of remember these characters for what they are. And what I love the most about Vikings ultimately is it found a way to make me love characters even when they did not always do the most loving of things. Whether it's Ragnar, Bjorn, Lagertha, they're all deeply flawed, but so incredibly compelling.
Yes, which is what makes this show one of my favorite shows. These characters are so compelling. They really are flawed, caring, loving, bad, good, all of it. Like, even Ragnar was so frustrating, and Bjorn was so frustrating, but I mean, I still loved them, and there was love in them.
I'm gonna miss this show. I
can't believe it's over.
It's already over. We're having to leave.
I know, we just burned through all 10 episodes, and I'm like, Meh.
Like, we're always supposed to leave behind bad things in 2020. Why can't we have at least a little more of a good thing in 2021? But it's over.
Damn it.
Hopefully, the spinoff is good. But for now, what did you guys think about these final episodes, the series finale? Where is your heart breaking the most? Is it Rollo? Is it Gun?
Is it Rollo?
Did I say Rollo? I think I meant to say Bjorn, but you know what?
It's because we have Rollo on the brain, because we really want that spinoff. But yes, what was the most heartbreaking death for you? Was it Gunhild?
because Rolo...
Wasn't it Ivar?
We never saw Rolo die, so
Was it
theoretically,
Bjorn?
Rolo's still alive in
he's
2020.
he's still alive in 2020 out in France.
Yeah, well, let us know what you thought about all this, and if you guys did enjoy this video, subscribe to the channel, give us a like, support us further by checking those links to the store, our Patreon, and we will see you here next time.